This one's on. Okay, let's start. Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Guam Election Commission to order. Today is Thursday, October 26. It is now 5:30 p.m. We are here at the Guam Election Commission conference room at the Oka Building in Tamuning. The meeting is also live streamed at the GEC website at gec.guam.gov/board. We'll call the meeting to order. Certification of quorum present. We have quorum, myself, Jerry Crisostomo, Chair, Alice Tyron, Vice Chair, Commissioner Joe Mopnes, Commissioner Benny Panaula, and Commissioner Tony Gumatauta are present. Commissioner Pat Seville is on his way. We also have Legal Counsel Jerry Diaz and Executive Director Maria Pangilinan. Excuse absence of Commissioner Clarissa Pangilinan also. Certification of public notice requirements, Maria?
Published in the Guam Daily Post and on October 19th and October 23rd, and it was also on the Government of Guam website.
Okay, let's go to approval of agenda. Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Mopnes to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? The approval of minutes. The minutes are attached. And this is, the last meeting was July 20th, was our regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes subject to corrections?
Mr. Chair, I so move to approve the minutes subject to corrections.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes subject to corrections by Commissioner Tony Gumatauta. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mopnes. All those in favor, say aye. Oppose? Okay, moving on to correspondence. Maria?
Sir, there was a call out to update all those criminal statutes in Title III. So it came from the it came from the Supreme Court. We answered, and it's on pages 8 to 13. And all they're wanting to do, sir, is get updates, or if there are required updates on the criminal statutes in our section of Title III.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, Vice Chair.
Maria, did you work with legal counsel on a response to this, or if there's anything?
Yes, we talked to our legal counsel, Vince.
And are we going to present anything?
No, we just, their list was comprehensive.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to item B on the correspondence.
Yeah, sir, we were visited by the Homeland Security from Hawaii. They're doing physical assessments and cybersecurity assessments. We let them know that as far as physical assessments, we don't know where our early voting is going to be. And UOG, we told them about UOG, they've looked at it. They'll be back out to look at the designated polling sites once we do have them. and the early voting site as well.
Did they do this in the past election? They didn't? Okay. Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, moving to item C.
I was invited to a symposium on elections, research, and administration. We will have the end product will be a textbook on election operations. So based on the meetings in Auburn, I'm part of the General of Elections, and I'm also now a part of this symposium.
When is this for?
Sir, it already happened. The trip report is on page 44.
When it was, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was October 15, 16, and 17.
Okay, any questions, comments? Let's go to item letter D.
We contacted Election Systems and Software to make sure that our equipment is ready for next year. They came out, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't, there was no water damage. And of course, they will do preventive maintenance again right before the election.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, Maria, and I'm hoping this is pertinent to items A, B, C, and D, under correspondence and everything else, all things elections, right? As you know, we're having issues with regard to the public schools, and public schools is where we hold our elections, right? Primary and general. In anticipation, I have faith they're going to open up, right? And by next election, I have faith that they should be in full compliance with all the laws, right? Is there anything in any of these, the laws, the grants, the discussions that you're having with these federal officials and with our legal counsel? And I've asked this question before. We've discussed this before with regard to reaching out to other private schools, other places to be able to hold an election, as a polling site, to identify them as a polling site. They do it in many places in the states, right? Is there something that we need to do? Do we need to adopt new laws to allow that? Is there a process that we need to implement? So I'm just asking this in general, that we prepare for the next election and then, of course, the big election in, is it 2026? In 2026.
Ma'am, we've started. We go through the mayors right now. Maybe I was told that I can say it publicly. I talked to Mayor Hoffman. I asked him about Sinahanya, and the problem with CL Taitano is the parking and how to get there. So he suggested I check with Bishop Baumgartner, who has an ADA compliant gym and who has excellent parking. And the initial conversation with them is go ahead. I was going to tell them that I was going to make it public at this meeting and that it's okay. Some time ago, we were talking with legal counsel Vince, and I believe there's nothing in the law that prevents us from going to private venues.
And that was my
Yeah.
has always been my question is,
Yeah.
we're always stuck with the thought that we have to stay with public institutions, public places, right? Government places, rather. So if we can go outside of that to help, the challenges
Yeah.
we have, UMATIC, Agate, just all of these places is, if we can step outside of that, start
Yeah.
preparing the report, the cost, what it's going to take, right? Commissioners, I don't.
Yeah. There are, we've looked at UMATIC many times. Yeah, I understand. We will.
challenges we have every election.
And I'll revisit with Vince to make sure that about the going to other than government buildings.
Okay, and this speaks to the Guam Election Commission ensuring that we have processes in place to secure ballots, transport, the whole bit. I mean, we did it at the Westin for early, right? So what are our processes in place that will minimize risk to the ballot, if that makes any sense? All right, thank you.
That's a good idea. I think we should, yeah, we've had this discussion previously, but I think it's time to look at other options, and especially costs. But and there are options. Maybe some of the villages like Umatic may be a challenge, but other villages may have, like Derudo, for instance, and even Tamuning. So, yeah. And if we can do it for the 24 elections, great. Yeah. Okay, any further questions on that? I'm going to recognize Commissioner Pat Seville has joined us. Okay. Let's move on to the Executive Director's Report section.
So starting on page 18 is our timeline, and we've now included in green, and it's still in draft, the retirement, Government of Guam retirement election that's coming up next year. I've begun, no, the election is next year, sorry. The election starts next year, but we're going to start talking with Paula officially next month. We've started unofficial dialogue, but we started talking and trying to pinpoint the dates. So we're looking at May or June next month. All these dates are tentative, and even the election date, she and I will discuss, and we'll bring it up to the commission when she will officially notify us. Okay?
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, just one.
Commissioner Magnus?
I know that maybe this is too early to mention, but I know that we're looking at your timeline for the early voting, right? Have we identified a venue, or are we still going to stick with Westin?
Oh, we have to go out and do an RFP. So in our timeline, we do have the RFP going out early next year. I don't know, yeah, I think we may have put it on a separate operational timeline, but we do have the RFP. We have to go out on bid.
Yeah, the only reason why I asked that because I didn't see that in your timeline, that's why. Thank you.
Early voting is in August, primary, right?
Saturday in August. So it'll be July. July we'll start early voting.
So is that 60 days?
30
days. 30 days before.
That means that bid has to come out the first quarter.
Oh, yeah.
The latter part of the first quarter. Okay.
It's March 4. Our RFP will go out March 4, based on this draft timeline.
Okay. Okay, let's move to item B, monthly voter by precinct report.
Sir, we got you. It's on your tables. We just finished our September report for motor voter. We now have 54,719 new voters, or total voters on the registry. And if you look in the back, 4,798 were added, all from motor voters since November of 2022.
And Maria, I know for several years,
Not good. We have it in our election comparative analysis reports. So whoever voted, we have them in our report. I don't have one in front of me. We know where they registered. As far as motor voter goes, not very many. And I can send that to yeah. Yeah.
Do you have an idea of percentage-wise?
Very, very little. Ask them. Yeah. No, I don't think it's single. It might be 11. I don't have. Yeah, almost, yeah. It's really bad. And we know that we get most of our young registered voters from over there, from Motor Voter, and they're the ones that don't show up. So when they come in to renew or get their driver's license, they sign up to register to vote, but they don't show up. And Pat, to make it to make a case of it, this off time, all of us are busy doing Motor Voter. That's what keeps us busy now, besides me and a few of us getting ready for the election already. Off time, Motor Voter takes up a lot. We have 4 personnel strictly on Motor Voter.
That's
Full-time.
basically to update the database.
It's still not automated, and, we still don't get the applications up on the screens. That forces us to get hard copies of the applications. So it's taking a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of person hours.
I think I may have asked this question last time we met, but the Motor Voter, because when they go get their license, they sign up. Do we send them some notification that they are a registered voter now, or?
Yes, that's expensive too.
Yeah.
So we'll send them in the mail, letters saying that they're registered to vote now and where their precinct is. And that's
We
all.
also have the expense of
$13,000 each time. That's just for the publication. The total cost comes up almost to $30,000 because we have to send them the notice twice by law.
Mr. Chairman, real quick question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Commissioner Penal.
So, I think we're spending a lot of time, resource, money on this program, and it's not producing the kind of results that we are desiring. I'm wondering if we should revisit this issue and maybe have a more comprehensive approach. Because again, this is a lot of time, resource, money that we're expending, and it's not producing, the results that we're looking for. It's one thing if you put in a lot of effort and you get a lot of benefit, but we're putting a lot of effort and getting a very small amount of benefit out of this. So I think it's incumbent on us to try to figure a way to look at especially the cost of this program and how it's impacting the Guam Election Commission, and if we can come up with maybe a different program that could give us a better result.
I think this is a public law, correct? Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be a transparent way of getting individuals to register to vote, maybe without knowing that they're registered to vote, and not paying attention too much to the follow-up letter or the notification that we've sent them. But I think that was the intent, but the resulting work that we have to do on our end. But it goes back to, again, the turnout issue, and I think we talked about this, is how do we engage the stakeholders to have a better turnout in this next election cycle?
Maria, I'm sorry, are we talking about 500? An additional 500 votes in the island-wide elections?
Sent it on the WhatsApp chat, the picture of how many came from them. And yeah, so it's there. 500, do we get 500 voters from them? More. Do we have numbers? Yeah. 2011, we got 2011 from the DMV voters, registrars. Yeah,
Showed up to
actually,
vote.
yeah, what's blue? So in person, 3,000 okay? A motor voter, 9,139. 2,011 voted.
Man, if you just do the cost averaging per vote and the amount of money you're spending, it's, doesn't look good.
Although 2,000 votes?
But, you know, on the other,
I agree we should look at that, though,
yeah, it should probably be revisited. I know it's a public law, but on the other hand, how would these individuals be registered? So the challenge is we have 54,000, probably close to 60+ thousand for the election, is how do we get a decent number of 60% or better to show up to vote? You know, what's the incentive, right?
I mean,
But that's a conversation I think the commission would need to have with the stakeholders, meaning the political parties and candidates, of course. Because there's a vehicle to do that with this motor voter. It just doesn't seem to be showing the results. At least 50% can show up to vote out of that 9,000.
I wonder if we should have like an ad that says, hey, did you get a driver's license the past 4 years? I'm sorry. You're registered. Don't forget to vote. Yeah, something like, I mean, because the chair's right. Maybe people are signing up and not really realizing it.
But I think we've done a lot of education programs already. We've published that in the newspapers. I think we've taken ads out in periodicals. I don't know how much more we can push this down the road.
I think we were hesitant to go on social media, but I think it's time. And so for the young folks, right, that's where they're at, to get them, hey, if you're registered. Go ahead.
Of these that registered via DMV, how many are millennials, how many are?
Yes, we have that. I don't have it in front of me, but we do. Yeah, but most of them it's the young folks.
I mean, right. And I know we've advertised it through traditional, but today, nobody pays attention to traditional media, right? So it's got to be through social media to reach that
It could be
demographic.
social media, it might not be social media. But I'm thinking maybe it might be good for us to partner with UG and get one of the classes to do a survey and contact these voters, these registered voters, and find out, through a survey, what were the issues. We gotta take a.
You start teaching next semester.
Okay. Because I know this would probably be a really good, case study, right? Good research that we could find out, and that would be empirical evidence that we could look at.
Are there any GUAM influencers?
I think so. I think there are. Who is it? There's a group at the university, something sustainability, and I think they do stuff like that, including, and it's.
No.
I
not that
understand.
kind. No, influencer, the hot young man or woman
Oh.
on Instagram or whatever, Snapchat, whatever they're on, who, promotes whatever influencers promote.
Just
To get them to do a public
Yeah.
spot on voting.
I just whispered to her, my son is a guitarist and he's supposed to be, right? He's supposed to be good, so we'll figure something out. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's two things here. One is the motor voter program. And then, of course, the big issue is the turnout overall.
Yeah.
So, they're intertwined, but we have a vehicle with the motor voter. And how do we make it effective
Right.
for turnout? Because it impacts turnout, but it doesn't impact turnout overall if we can't get everybody else that's registered to turn out and vote.
Yeah, and I have to say that the one thing good, one of the good things of Motor Voter, we get to update the voters' information, especially the mailing address, and if we're going to do anything about signatures, now we have their updated signatures because they have to renew their license every 5 years. So that works for us. It's just getting it so that it's truly automated where, we can see it. It'll take half the time as soon as they get the software up and running the way it's supposed to.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, let's move on then to item C. The online,
Sir, online is in the back, and I said that we have 465 new voters from August to September. On our voter by precinct, we have the online in the back. I'm sorry, Motor Voter. Online voter registration, if you look at what I sent you, online voter registration seems to be working where they show up to vote. They took the effort to register online. They made the effort to come out and vote. It's on page 26. Not very many vote that way, but, not very many register that way, but those that register online do come out to vote.
yeah, I think typically anybody that goes online to register is intending to vote. Somebody that goes to renew their driver's license may not intend to vote, but is registered to vote. Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good point. When people do it on their own, they show up to vote.
yeah.
When the government comes in and does it for them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're
They don't
interested in
trust, yeah.
voting.
Okay, Vice Chair?
With regard to online registration, I know that there was a concern in the last election, duplicates. Is that part of the cybersecurity inspection review? What are we going to get out of that?
Yes, because the way we validate those online voter registration is through Motor Voter, through DMV. They have to have a current driver's license or a current GUAM ID to be able to register online.
About securing
Yes.
the process to ensure that, yeah.
The CISA or Homeland
Okay.
Security continues to monitor what comes in and out. It's something that Jack will be able to explain better, where we're 24/7 being monitored, with what comes in and out.
And this is on the side, and something to please note and to take a look, is how I know it's safe because people have to sign in, right? And that's a good way of tracking, right? But I know that at one point in time, we had those electronic tabulators, not tabulators, sign-in, poll books,
Yes.
right? Is there anything out there that's going to be safe, that will allow our lines to move a little faster, secure? You can just look it up. You don't have to respond right now. I know there's issues with the poll books, but it's just to be able to get that information online. How many have gone in, so.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just to add on to the Vice Chair's comments, I think that's coming eventually, because as people transfer to real IDs, then you'll be able to take those IDs and scan them, and it will have their data. So I think we're already seeing that process playing out right this time. But it'll take time for GUAM to get on board, but as soon as you get your real ID, you can scan that.
All right. Let's go to item D, monthly financial report.
We're doing okay, and I'd like to announce that I finally, the office finally figured out the systems award management. So we're in the process of being able to get fiscal year '22 and fiscal year '23 grant funds. That's for a total of $400,000. We closed out this September, the fiscal year '23 local appropriations. We had some leftover money, but none of that is continuous, so it goes back to the pot. I did warn the legislature or the senators in Augustin when we were talking, for about early voting, that's a separate and apart amount if they don't give us the full amount. What they've done in the budget is they've given it to, they didn't give it to us outright. They're saying that the governor is authorized to give us the $400,000 for early voting. So we'll tackle that as the time draws near.
Okay, great. Congratulations on completing that. I mean, that's 400,000, so, yeah. Okay, any questions, comments?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, what?
It's not here, but I imagine that it should have been under the executive director's report. The issue with regard to the primaries for the Democrats, the closed primary, that was in our last discussion. So it's not here, but I think we're supposed to discuss and have a report with regard to the elections
Yeah.
and laws that we have to amend, Maria, right?
I believe what happened was we wrote letters. I want to say, I'm sorry, I don't remember. We wrote letters asking for their updated bylaws, and if the updated bylaws included whether they wrote the open and closed primary. They sent us a set of bylaws, but it was not signed. So we went back and we asked them, is this something, could we get a signed set of bylaws?
Okay, I know it's not in the agenda, but just to ensure that the Guam Election Commission is protected, is address the situation, ensure that it's addressed properly, because if I understand correctly, the Democrat Party is indicating that it's at the Guam Election Commission, and that it's the Guam Election Commission that needs to take care of this. They've done their part, is my understanding. So follow up and make sure that that is addressed, and that the GEC, it's known that the GEC is doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're now waiting on them. Make sure they get clear instructions with regard to what it is they need to do.
Yeah, because I think if I recall, the last thing was they threw it back to us to come up with the rules. We wanted the rules and regulations on their end, right? But they threw that back to the commission. I know we sent a letter for their bylaws and update, and I think both parties responded. So now it's back on our court.
And if I remember correctly, I think one set of bylaws was not signed.
Okay. Moving on to item E, Office of the Inspector General.
We're about finished with the audit. There were 4 findings, and we're waiting. We received note from, so how it works with the Election Assistance Commission and this audit, which we've done for the first time, is the final audit report, the final auditor's report goes to us, the Election Assistance Commission, and the Inspector General. So they ask us to respond to their findings. They're asking EAC to respond to the findings as well. And then the Inspector General will decide on what to do with those findings. The 4 findings are, the first one was that we weren't doing it legally. So I told them that we opened our checking account with resolutions from the commission. We told them that we consulted our legal counsel, and this has been doing back in 2002 and then 2011. So from what I'm reading, we're okay with that. The second one was on CARES funding and how we spent some monies that were not, we spent money for food. Well, I did get clearance from the EAC that food was okay. And then they said you can only spend money on food for overtime. And they said, why were you buying breakfast and lunch? And I said, by Wednesday morning, our staff were already accruing overtime. So then hence breakfast and lunch. So, and then the third finding, and then there was one where the purchase order was less than the actual payment, but it was during COVID, and the purchase order was for the sanitizing of the classrooms, and all of a sudden we needed to do a runoff, and so I think the EAC accepted that. And then the fourth finding was the late filing of our report. But the reason it was deemed late was because I did not check a final, and that was on the reports for the old grant from 2006. So we finally closed that. And the reason I never put final was because there was a little pot of money that was remaining that we could have had, but because at that time, the commission did not feel that we should buy one piece of equipment for every single precinct, and only 11 people will use it. And that was for the universal access to voting, which meant that we had to buy one for every precinct. So we finally closed it during the audit, and so that one went away as well.
Okay, any questions on that?
Marie, do we have any breakdown in terms of like, what were the major findings, or was it a moderate finding, or was it a minor finding?
It's still, the report is away, the final report from U.S. Election Assistance Commission is now with the Inspector General.
Do they share the draft report with you?
Yes, yes, we have a draft report. We have a draft report of what EAC's response is to the audit, but we don't have the final report yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Vice Chair.
Maria, the draft report is not for public consumption.
Yes, you can see it because you're part of us. But, you know, we need to make sure that it's just the commission that sees it. It's just, yeah.
The audit report would usually stipulate that it's not for anybody outside of the executive director and maybe legal counsel, just to be sure.
I also, to understand too, when they do the audits and you get a draft report, you have an opportunity to respond to some of the findings. So that's why it's not shared, unless the product is final.
I think they're looking October, at the end of this month or middle of next month for the report to be finalized, and it would be up on the EAC website.
None of the, I think 5 or 6 that concerns that you just enumerated, none of those are deemed to be significant or material?
It wasn't labeled like that. Like material finding. We went through it for a whole year, and I didn't, when it came down to the findings, I was thinking that some were major or material or substantial. I don't know if it's because of the nature of the grant, where it's, it's specific to COVID and specific to security, and I don't know if they can find material or major findings, but none were labeled like that.
Okay.
All right, And you've already provided some responses to that, those 4 findings.
Our response was due on Monday, so I sent it in.
Okay. Okay. Any other report for Executive Director? We'll move on to old business. The item A, the 2022 general
What page was
election.
that? We finally paid off, I think, on page 30. Now we have a good, now we have an accurate amount of how much we spent for the election. And, because I think we've finally paid our last vendor. So we're up to 400,000 for 2022 general election.
And that is the final,
I think so.
do we think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope, it seems like, yes, it is. We were waiting for one more, and so that finally came in. I think that was the $49,000 for GPD.
Yeah,
or
also all the
somebody.
government agencies. have
All the
been
government
accounted.
agencies were paid.
Okay. Okay, any questions? Let's move on then to item B, fiscal year 2024 budget requests.
Okay, so we got our budget, and like I said, if you look on page 32, we were given $2,153,000, the appropriation, and so we've started drawing down from there already. And I did already report that the 400,000 for the early voting is authorizing the governor to give us that money. So when it comes time, I'll take a look at that. I mean, I'll address that. And that's all for the fiscal year '24 budget.
Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, let's go to item C, the Campaign Finance Committee.
Nothing to report at this time, although I really want to push the change in the schedule of reporting for quarterly, so I'd like to ask your permission again to go to the Senator Joe San Augustin, to ask him to change at least the reporting requirements for the campaign finance, to change it so that instead of right before the primary, they report quarterly as soon as, after they file their organizational report, then they have to file quarterly calendar basis.
Yeah, I think we discussed that previously, right?
Mhm. And we prepared a summary of the recommendations for, and we were supposed to have a work session. I wonder if it's opportune to do that now with all of you back, to do a work session so we can present the changes, so Vince and I can present the changes to that chapter, and we can bring that total. Two things that we want immediately, as soon as possible, right, is the change in the calendar of the filing and the precinct official stipend. Those are two things we want before, hopefully before the new year.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Maria, your work sessions have to be announced, correct? Published? Okay. I'm not opposed.
Can we have a work session?
Yeah, I mean, I know we last discussed in July, and it's now October, so November, next week. So, let's
Yeah, can I
come to
put it on, can I put it on the chat? I'll
Sure.
give you optional days so that we can do the public notices, and then the 7 of you will pick the best dates for you, and we'll work on that. I'll give you a couple of dates,
Okay,
okay?
all right?
And it would take maybe 3 hours at the most, and I'll feed you something, so, yeah.
Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, let's move on then to item D, bill number 95-37.
Okay.
You want to explain that?
Okay, so the bill totally repeals the primary election chapter. And so I needed to, okay, so let me take both D and E. So E was the one for the legislative submission on the abortion issue to be put on the ballot. So I did not submit written testimony for E because we were supposed to have a meeting within the time to submit written testimony. So I was going to wait until we met, and then I would submit written testimony. For D, there was no meeting scheduled, so I submitted written testimony based on the the day-to-day issues of the election. And the biggest thing was, with the removal or with the repeal of the primary election chapter, there is no way in the law to put candidates on the ballot for the general election. That was one thing. And then with the if they repeal the primary election, almost guaranteed we will have a runoff for either the congressional delegate or the governor.
Yes, Vice Chair.
I was just going to say, which would potentially pose a bigger challenge for the Guam Election Commission, given the days required.
Okay, any other questions, comments on that? And that letter E, the Bill 106 is that's the abortion case, right?
I just told them about how much it cost last time, and that the cost is much higher now, because we have a higher number of registered voters.
Okay. Let's move on then to, if there are no further questions on item D and E, we'll go to item F, the Guam Hava State Plan.
Back in 2006, we wrote the Help America Vote Act state plan, which was required to get about $2 million in federal grants. That, from what I'm seeing on the Election Assistance Commission website, states are now updating it, but I had asked the EAC what is the process to update it. So we're looking into updating it, and we're looking to update it, complete the update in 2025. So it'll take some stakeholder involvement, and there are laws that have passed, including provisional voting, absentee voting, that are not included in the the Guam Hava State Plan. So those will all be incorporated. We will begin, we've started to look at it, but our target date is to finish update in 2025.
Okay, any questions?
For the next one, sir,
Item
G.
G, the National Conference of
Yes.
State Legislatures, yeah.
So we had excellent representation in Commissioner Benny Benalla and Commissioner Mofnes. Our trip report is on page 41. The result was Colonel Mofnes invited Election Assistance Commissioner Hicks to Guam. So he will be coming the week of the 18th of December. We're hoping that he will be able to also visit Saipan. With this said, one of the things that I've discussed with EAC is to be able to assist Saipan, who's new to the grants thing. And so I will be working with Saipan to help them establish their SOPs for the grant stuff. And it would be sponsored by HAVA, so we would use our HAVA grant to help them.
Okay, yeah, there's a report on page 41, a written report by the commissioners that attended, so feel free to review that. Commissioner Vice Chair, do you have a question?
Yes, with regard to the HAVA, and in reference to our discussion earlier about help get the vote out, correct? With voters, can we use HAVA grants to put out ads, remind people to come out and vote, remind those who voted, who registered via the DMV that, hey, election's coming up, things like that, using influence, whatever the case may be?
Yes. So we had submitted our budget narrative for fiscal year '22, and I asked EAC not to finalize that, because I'm going to look at the budget narrative again and figure things like that out so that we can, for the next 400,000. Right now, we still have 475,000 in the bank, and then with this money, we can amend our budget narrative to include voter outreach. Yes.
Quick question, Maria. I'm not sure, but is the grant a formula grant or is this a competitive grant?
Not formula, maybe closer to formula, because it's dished out based on the number of registered voters. But for us territories, it comes out to, so far, 200,000 every fiscal year. And they haven't shared what has for fiscal year '24, but we're kind of leery because the new Speaker of the House is the one that's suspicious about our elections, is what's coming down from the elections pipeline across the nation. Territory, no, and national elections, Nye, and even us, so we don't know what's going to happen to the EAC budget, which is where the grant money comes from.
So it's kind of good that we got Mr. Hicks coming to Guam. Good that we have Mr. Hicks coming to Guam.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He'll have the inside scoop.
It was Commissioner Mofness's invitation. I've been trying to get him to come, but it was Commissioner Mofness's invitation.
Good, okay.
Oh, I was Commissioner Pinala, yes, yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, let's move to new business. Election manual update?
Yeah, so the last time the election manual was updated was in 2012? 15. So we're looking at it, we've started to look at it, we're updating all our forms already. We know that the primary election is earlier this year, or earlier next year. So we're working on election manual update, and we'll present a draft for you so that we can take it through the AAA process.
Okay. Any discussion, questions? Any further new business? None. Let's go to the legal counsel report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's nothing new to report with regard to the case indicated on the agenda, Guam Legal Society of Obstetrics and Gynecologists versus the AG's office. It's my understanding that the parties involved in that case are still proceeding forward with the briefing, in the briefing stage, and once we receive any updates, we will certainly inform the commissioners.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, let's move to public comment. Are there any comments from the public? Jessica, Vice Chair?
Just, Maria, of the commissioners, who needs to attend the ethics committee meeting on Monday? Training on Monday?
Alice Tyrod, Jerry Chrysostomou, Tony Gumatautau, Joe Mofness, and Carissa. Okay, Pat and Benny are
We're set.
not, Yeah.
We got another 4 years to go.
No, less than that, because it's every 4 years.
Every 4 years, right?
Every 4 years, yeah.
Yeah,
So our legal counsel, Vince, is our teacher at the
perfect.
Westin at 8 o'clock.
8 to 12.
Some not, Fanan Ihilu, taste, you know, just up there.
Holiday
Preg- yeah,
elevator, the
yeah.
Uli'i,
Special election.
No,
no,
no.
the banquet
no.
rooms.
You have to go into the, yeah.
You'll see it when you get into the elevator.
And it says that to bring a sweater. Yeah, I put their email on it, on your, okay.
Yeah, Mangeng.
All right. Yeah, so the ethics, to meet the GUAM law for ethics certification. Okay. Next meeting, I know we last met in July, now it's October, so next meeting, we're closely approaching the 24 election cycle, so we'll be meeting from here on, I guess.
The third Thursday is November 16th. So is that good?
Thursday, November 16th, 5:30?
Yes.
Just the week before Thanksgiving. It might be offline. Yeah, so we'll tentatively schedule it for Thursday, November 16th at 5:30 here at the commission office. Okay, seeing no other business, entertain a motion then to adjourn this meeting of the Guam Election Commission until November
I'd
16th.
like to make a motion to move to adjourn.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Penalo, second by Commissioner Mafinas. All those in
Gotta
favor?
work on your timing, guys.
Yeah, aye,
It used to be like
opposed?
that, you know?
Okay, we'll reconvene on Thursday, November 16th at 5:30 PM here at the Guam Election Commission Conference Room in Timoni. Thank you.